Hey, what's going on everybody? Commander Crane here, and we are back with another Pioneer video. And today, we're going to be talking about 10 mono blue budget decks that are perfect for the Pioneer format. So this is the 5th episode that we've done. We went over all the other monocolor decks so far, and then mono blue is our last one that we have to talk about. So before we really hop into this video here, I want to talk about, what the purpose of this video is for. It's really for people that are, maybe new players that are looking to get into Magic as well, if they're looking to get into Pioneer. If you're an experienced player and you're kind of thinking about testing out the Pioneer format, but you're not sure, if you really want to deep dive into the format, or if you're just looking for some good kitchen table decks to play, this is the perfect video for you. And all the decks are going to be mono blue. So let's go and hop into the parameters here real quick. So all of the decks fit this requirement. They need to be mono blue. Every single spell in our deck needs to be able to be cast by an island. Less than $50, because after all, they're budget decks. We don't want them to be, too expensive. We want it to be, most people could just go on to like TCG Play or something like that, buy all the cards real quick and easy have a deck. Maybe even some of these cards already in your collection, some good commons and uncommons. That's what we're trying to do here. It needs to have a flavorful theme as well. Whether or not it necessarily is like a Kindred deck, or if it's just like a good mechanic that all kind of combines well together. Whatever the reason be, it needs to have a flavorful theme, and it needs to be easy for new players. That's not to say that these decks aren't strong or anything like that. It's more so that we're not playing any cards that are overly complicated. So, if you bought this deck and you let your friend borrow it for F&M or something, they'd be able to pick it up, relatively know what's going on, and still have a good time. So that's what we're trying to do. But let's go and hop into it here. So mono blue, when I think of mono blue, especially in Pioneer, the first deck that I think of is Monolue Flyers, and that's because this is like my arena deck for if I need to grind, cast 20 blue spells, cast 30 blue spells, attack with 30 creatures. This is the deck that I use because it's just a whole bunch of good one-drop flyers with favorable wins, and also Tempest Djinn. I've always been a huge fan of Tempest Djinn. The card's just really, really awesome. It was actually my pre-release promo back in the day in Dominaria, but it's just really, really fun. It plays some cheap counter spells like Lofty Denial and Make Disappear. It's just a really, really basic mono blue Flyers deck. Obviously, we've got a lot of good creatures that can grow in size a little bit. They can counter some instants and sorceries, draw some cards. They do a little bit of everything. I really, really like this deck, and that's why I had to feature this one first. So the next one that we have to talk about is Monolue Xin, which is based off of Haughty Djinn. Instants and sorceries you cast cost 1 less to cast, and then its power is equal to the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard. So basically what we're trying to do is just cast a ton of different cards, like Consider, Opt. Obviously we have a bunch of good counter magic like Make Disappear, Lofty Denial. And then we play some good card draw like Winged Words. And then really our main win conditions is Haughty Djinn, Stormwing Entity, Terramander, and Ledger Shredder. I was able to fit 2 Ledger Shredders in this budget deck. That tells you how cheap this deck was to actually build. But I also really do love Stormwing Entity. This card is just absolutely awesome, and that's why I had to include it in this deck. So yeah, Monolue Haughty Djinn, awesome deck to build for sure. The next one that we have is Monolue Mill. After all, people love mill decks. I know some people really don't like mill decks, but we have Monolue Mill. Pretty straightforward. There's a few cards that I had to cut from this for the budget list. For instance, we're playing Mind Sculpt in there. I would have liked to play Maddening Cacophony, but I wasn't able to fit it in. I either had to pick Maddening Cacophony or Tasha's Hideous Laughter, and I decided that I really wanted to have Tasha's Hideous Laughter in this deck, just because against the right deck, this can just absolutely mow down our opponent. I mean, we can just mill half their deck if we hit the right cards. But yeah, it's Monolue Mill. Just plays the best blue mill cards pretty much in the entire format, and yeah, that's really about it. It's Monolue Mill. And the next deck we have to talk about is Mono Blue and Soul, a deck that I've really liked for quite some time, especially as a good budget deck. I mean, we have cards like Ensoul Artifact and Zoet Glyph that are just incredibly strong. We have a lot of good cheap artifacts that we can play, like Ornithopter, Stonecoil Serpent, Gingerbrute, and Spyglass Siren does make the map token, which is pretty sweet. We have a lot of different Ensoul effects, some really good counter magic like Stubborn Denial and Metallic Rebuke. We also get a card like Machine Over Matter, which is just absolutely incredible. It's basically a 1 mana, it's 2 mana, Disperse, but it's only 1 mana if you control an artifact, which is pretty sweet. So it's basically just a 1 mana. It's kind of like better into the Floodmoth, to be honest with you, which is pretty good. So yeah, overall, Mono Blue and Soul, definitely probably one of the stronger decks that is shared with you today. The next one that we have to talk about is Mono Blue Devotion. I've always loved Master of Waves. The card is just super duper cool, and I wanted to just do like a weird mono blue tempo-y, like devotion kind of deck, and I feel like we really hit the nail on the head with this deck. I mean, I love Pawn Prophet too. It's a blue 1/1. When it enters, you draw a card, which is pretty sweet. We're also playing Essence Flux. I wish I would have had that one on screen here. It's 1 blue. Basically, we flicker a creature is essentially what Essence Flux does. And we're playing cards like Merurolk Trickster and Pawn Prophet that really love being blinked. Obviously, Master of Waves as well. That's what we're trying to do in this deck. We play a little bit of counter magic. Overall, I really love this deck. Especially shout out to Merurolk Trickster. I've always thought this card was just super awesome. So the next card, or the next deck we have to talk about, is Monolue Flash. I've always loved the Flash decks. You know, I used to play a lot of like Simic ones, but this one is mono blue. Still plays a lot of similar creatures, you know, Spectral Sailor, Brineborn Cutthroat, Cunning Nightbonder, which is awesome. And again, I know it's technically not a mono blue card, but we can play it for blue. So that's why I counted it in this deck. But it makes our creatures, our spells with Flash cost 1 less to cast and can't be countered. So we play cards like Brineborn Cutthroat, Voracious Great Shark, Ashiok's Erasure, and Brazen Borrower. Just a whole bunch of really strong Flash cards all in one deck. Yeah, this deck is just really sweet. I've always really loved Voracious Great Shark, so I'm really happy that I was able to feature that card in a deck. So the next deck we have to talk about is Mono Blue Terror. What we're trying to do in this deck is fill up our graveyard with cards like Otherworldly Gaze, you know, and just, what's the other good one? I'm trying to forget all of a sudden. Yeah, but really, it's just a mono blue control deck that we put a whole bunch of instants and sorceries into our graveyard, so that way when we play Tolarian Terror and Eddie Merc Crab, it makes the deck just super cheap, or these cards super cheap to cast, and we just kind of end the game with those. That's what we're trying to do in this deck. We're also playing 4 copies of Cryptic Serpent, which I would say is quite not as good as those, but having the nice 12 effects of like creatures that are really cheap for our instants and sorceries in our graveyard is just really nice. So definitely huge fan of this deck. The next one I have to talk about is kind of similar to Mono Blue Terror, and it does play the Terror package a little bit, but that is Mono Blue Surveil. So we're playing some really strong Surveil cards. For instance, Thoughtbound Phantasm, Enhanced Surveillance, as well as cards like Swallowed by Leviathan from Final Fantasy. We're trying to fill our graveyard like this just in a different way for the most part. We're just trying to take advantage of surveilling. Obviously, there's a lot of really strong surveil cards in the format. You know, like Search for Iskant is awesome. We still get to play Sinister Sabotage. We get the new surveil counterspell. We get Afara's Dispersal and Unauthorized Exit, which are some really good bounce spells that allow us to surveil. So it's just a little bit different approach with Mono Blue Terror. It's, I would say, a little bit more fun, you know, just because you're surveilling, you're triggering all these different cards. It's just really fun. Mono Blue Surveil. So the next deck I have to talk about is Spirits. After all, people love Spirits. The deck is super strong. I would say that this probably is the strongest deck that I'm featuring here today. There's just so many good Spirits, really, that you can play in Mono Blue. I know even with Spirits in Pioneer competitively, I know it generally is between Mono Blue, Blue White, as well as Bant. They're all just kind of different decks. Spirits tends to be, or like the Mono Blue Spirits tends to be a little bit more tempo-y based. But a lot of people do prefer Mono Blue Spirits. So this is actually not that far away from the actual Mono Blue Spirit deck. I even included Ascendant Spirit, which is the snow one, and I was able to fit all the different snow lands into the deck and still get under that $50 price budget, which is just really sweet. So yeah, it's really just the best of Mono Blue Spirits in the format, and this deck is awesome. And the next one I have to talk about is Mono Blue Merfolk, which also is our last deck we have to talk about today. It's Mono Blue Merfolk. I mean, Merfolk are fantastic. You know, we get Mistcloaked Herald and Triton Shorestalker, which are both the exact same card. We put some Curious Obsessions on them. We trigger our Deep Root Pilgrimage. We have Vidalian Hexcatcher, which is a fantastic lord. Just overall, this deck has a lot going for it, and I think it's definitely very strong. It's either Spirits or Merfolk is the actual best deck. It's pretty close, but I think, you know, they both have their advantages and disadvantages, but they're both really strong. But yeah, that's all the decks I've got for you today. This was really fun to make all these decks. I'll be honest with you, I think blue is probably the easiest color that I had, you know, in terms of trying to build all the different decks, because obviously we did all the other monocolor decks. I would say blue is the easiest. There's even a few decks that I didn't include on here that I definitely could have. So definitely let me know in the comment section below which one was your favorite, or let me know if you're going to build one of these decks, or if you've already built a variation of the deck and maybe play some different cards. Just let me know in the comment section. And that takes us to the end of the video here. Thanks so much for watching. All the deck lists are in the description below if you'd like to check them out for yourself. Huge shout out to our channel members, Ralph, Matt, Arcadius, Ray, Gary, Surveil, Michael D, our premium channel member, The Common Cold, Jeremy P, and BG Stilts. If you are interested in being a channel member, it starts at $1 a month, and you gain access to the exclusive Commander Crane Discord, as well as other features here on the channel. So, I'm Commander Crane, thanks for watching this video, and hope to catch you in the next one.